So this is a bench tour. It's May 2024, and this is pretty much all my trees that I have potted. They fit on these two benches. So I'll go from left to right here. So this is a western hemlock. I collected it in my local national forest a couple of years ago. Didn't do much with it. It's just recovering. I haven't pruned it much, a tad. And I have wired it, and I like the form. It's kind of a deciduous form, but it works for the tree. I like it. I like the base here too. This is a lot of the stuff that just came with the tree from the forest. Also, I'm blanking on the flowers, those little red flowers. I planted them in there last year. But yeah, it's doing pretty well. It still hasn't put on new needles, but I can see the buds. They're tiny, which is how it was last year, and it's pretty late. One of the last to bud out. This is a newer planting. This is a mugo pine, and it's really more about the rock. I found this rock in the forest and really liked it, and kind of hollowed it out, but in the process broke it open, and I was able to glue it back together. And the space in there is not much. So I shoved this little mugo pine in there, and honestly, I wasn't sure if it's gonna live, but the candles are extending and swelling. So maybe it'll live. We'll see. But that's up in the air, kinda. This is my son's little spruce we found in the backyard here. He picked out that pot, and he likes to do kind of the landscape look there. Puts little things he finds in the yard in there, little plants that he likes. But we've actually had that tree, I think 3 years now at least, maybe 4. I'm actually really excited about some of these trees. They're just smaller plantings, but these are some elms. I don't know what kind of elm, but just seedlings from my yard. And I put them in this little pot. There's 3 of them in there. I wired them up and just grouped them together this spring. This is another one, just a seedling from my yard, an oak tree. And I'm pretty excited about this one because I was pretty severe on the roots, putting this little 3-inch pot. And wasn't sure if it'd live because I've read oaks do not like root disturbance. But the buds are swelling. They're about to open, it looks like. So pretty excited about that one. In the back is a dwarf variety of rose, a cutting. And I've actually had that pot for at least a year now. It's actually got a bud on it. It flowers very readily. This is a dwarf variety of elm, a Jacqueline Hillier elm. Just got last summer, or maybe even last fall. Stuck it in this pot. The roots were kind of a mess, so I did a pretty big root pruning. But it's doing well. I love the leaves. That's about the size they get. They're well under an inch. I'll come around here to the ivy that I dug up in the corner of my yard. I planted in the garden box, or in the yard, for a couple of years, and just dug it up this spring. And yeah, we'll see how it does. I think it'll be fine. It had quite a few roots on it. But yeah, I just kind of did that one day when I was bored. Not super excited about this one, but it's something. This is a American hornbeam. I just love the leaves on this, especially the fall color is amazing. Was gonna put this in the ground to thicken up, but I really just kind of liked the image of kind of a young deciduous tree. So potted up. New leaves are emerging. They're tiny. This time of year they look really good. This is a yew. Styled it last year, 2 years ago, I can't remember. Kind of creeped along last year, but this year maybe the roots are a little more settled and it seems to be growing pretty well. Has quite a few buds. This is a ginkgo, a dwarf variety of ginkgo. The name is Marken, and yeah, this has small leaves for a ginkgo. When planted in a larger container, I actually saw one today, but in this little pot, they stayed very small last summer, and they seem to be doing it again this year. The leaves are really just emerging, but they're quite tiny, like size of a quarter maybe, or less actually. It's a Delosperma accent plant. Love the little orange and red flowers. It turns purple in the winter from cold. I'll come back around. Yeah, I didn't talk about this group. So this is a little Cotoneaster. I have it styled like kind of like an apple tree is what I think of it as. Or there's some camperdown elms on the college campus where I live, and really love them. So this tree reminds me of those. I've had it in this pot for 2 years. Behind it is a Kishu juniper. Just a little tiny pre-wired starter from Bonsai. This is a small variety of quince, just put in a pot. Hime is the cultivar, and I got it from Evergreen Garden Works. Love the little flowers, they're kind of an orangey red. This, first I'll talk about, yeah, this is one of my favorites right now. Love this Acer palmatum, Japanese maple, a dwarf variety. The cultivar is Yurihime, and loving it. Last year it had the immature leaves, and I was a little confused because it just looked like a normal maple to me. This year this is the mature foliage, so very small leaves. I love the coloring on them, very tight internodes. Just put it in that little pot. Next to it, in that taller pot, is rooted cutting from a Thuja occidentalis primo, a dwarf variety of Thuja occidentalis. And next to that is just some little tiny conifer seedlings that we found around the yard that my son wanted to pot up. Behind that is a sedum. Actually, you can kind of see the trunk on it there. I've had in that pot for a few years now, and it's kind of fun. The bonsai succulent. Behind that is my Amur maple, big Amur maple. I've had it, I think this will be the third summer with it. It was, 5-6 feet tall when I bought it. I chopped it down to maybe 18 inches and just kind of grown out the primary branches. It does pretty well here in this climate. I see Amur maples a lot in the landscapes. Next to it, definitely my favorite, or one of my favorite trees. I've had this one for a decade, and it's a Japanese maple, Makawa Yatsubusa. I love the new foliage on it. It's great limey green color. I just put it in that brand new green pot. It's doing really well. Just got this one. This is a dwarf variety of Hinoki cypress, and I'm gonna just keep it very small. It actually has a decent trunk. I looked out, I just scraped the top off. Didn't really see the trunk when I bought it, but really a decent sized trunk for the height. So I'm gonna thin that out and style it just a tad. This is another one of my favorites. My larch, a dwarf variety of larch. It's American larch or Eastern larch, and the variety is Blue Sparkler. And I've had it for, this is my 4th summer with it, I believe, and just repotted it. Didn't really even need it, put it back in the same kind of mica training pot. but I changed the planting angle a bit to be more upright. And yeah, just love this tree. The foliage, it's called Blue Sparkler. The foliage on it is very blue. Emerges pretty bright green, like a typical larch, or at least a typical western larch I'm familiar with, but then turns blue. So yeah, it's really coming along. When I bought it, it just looked like a bush, but I've pruned, most of the branches. I wire them down every year, and it's shaping up to be a nice tree. Has a really nice, interesting abari, in my opinion. I love the roots on it. This is a dwarf Alberta spruce, and have it for a few years. Didn't really even want this tree. My sons liked it, so I was like, sure, I'll buy it. Had it for a year, and then I said, hey, can I bonsai you guys this tree? And they're like, sure, we don't care. Bonsai it. And so I did, and I have mixed feelings about it. I like it, then I think, it's kind of boring, straight, and there's just dwarf Alberta spruces everywhere, all over in everybody's landscape, so I just don't get too excited about it. But I don't know, it's healthy at least and growing. This is that dwarf variety of Thuja occidentalis, or arborvitae. Primo is the cultivar by Iselli Nursery. And yeah, I really love this tree. It's one of my favorites. Just put it in that pot. It grows slowly, but it's a tough tree. I pruned a ton of it off when I first installed it. I pruned a ton of roots off, and it was fine. Just kept growing. Very cold hardy. This is another dwarf conifer. I'm realizing that's kind of a theme here with my bench. I like dwarf conifers and dwarf varieties in general. This is a Japanese white pine. The variety name is Kimpo, and I accidentally snapped this one in half this winter when I was trying to wire and bend the trunk, and snapped at least half the tree off. I snapped it and I said, oh, well, that actually looks better. I like it better. And I went ahead and repotted it too this spring. A little nervous about it because this is my first pine, and didn't want to kill it because I really just love the needles. They're tiny. And I'm very excited to see there are a ton of new candles on it all over the place. So I think it's going to be just fine. And doing well. Love that tree. Behind it is Acer palmatum. I love the root base. It looks like a hand. One reason I kind of liked it and bought it. It's not a variety or a cultivar. It's just your standard Japanese maple. But has fairly small leaves compared to a lot that I've seen. But internodes, as you can see, for the size I'm going for, which is quite short, internodes can be pretty long on it. But, it's fine. My plan is to let it grow out. I'll cut it back, let it grow out, cut it back. And you do get some short internodes, so I'll just use those when I am given one. Now, here to the bottom row. This is another native collected from my local national forest, and it is a western larch, and I collected it. This will be my third summer with it, and it never, I did go ahead and wire it. Maybe I jumped the gun though, I don't know, we'll see, because it puts on new needles like it does here, and they're fairly long. They're about an inch long, which is typical for the species, but then it doesn't extend for me. And so I suppose it's still kind of in recovery, hence why I shouldn't have wired it, but we'll see. The needles look pretty healthy this year, actually maybe a little longer than last year, so I'm hopeful that it'll pull through and it'll be successful collect, because it has that interesting trunk that's already pretty barky. Next to it is a dwarf Arctic birch. And this handled root pretty well. I took quite a few off this spring for its first potting. I got it last summer, and it's grown well. I'd been eyeing this one in a local nursery for a couple of years because it already was quite, I think it'd been left there for several years, at least 5, maybe longer in this pot. So it already has some really cool character. It's a cool clump style. I like it. Here's another newbie for me. This is Chinese elm. The variety is Seiju. And so Seiju has these tiny, tiny leaves. Very small. And I actually repotted this after the leaves had already buds had broken, and was wondering if I'd jumped the gun or should have waited another year, but it yeah, it's doing well. It's just growing everywhere. All the leaves look really healthy, so handles root pretty well. So that's it for the bonsai bench tour. Oh, although I could actually go over here to where I'm growing some stuff in the ground. So this is a Douglas fir, also a collect from my local national forest. And I've had it in the ground here now for a couple of years, just letting it recover. And this year it has so many fat buds on it that I decided to go ahead and wire some branches down, but not disturb the roots. So yeah, pretty thick trunk on it. Let's see how it does this summer. This is another Amber maple, same variety. The Flame is the variety on that, same as my bigger one on the bench. It's doing well. Here's my apple tree dug up from my yard. Not really sure what to do with it, so I just kind of let it grow. Next to it is, you can't see it. I wire it or cage it, I should say, because of the local rabbits. They love to eat the new leaves on it. So it's a crab apple and very dwarf variety. I can't think of the name of it, but it's Malus. It's apple. Just a small, generic Japanese maple. And this really showy one. I love the leaves on this guy. This is Katsura, Japanese maple, and love the color. Really cool and different than my other Japanese maples I have. I just have it planted in the ground here to let it grow out, but this year we've been getting a lot of late frosts and some of the leaves are damaged. Plus I kind of worry about like my kids snapping it with a ball, so I think I'm going to put this in a pot next spring so I can control it more, even though it's still just kind of a stick, but love the foliage. This is a potentilla. I've had it in the ground for quite a while, at least 2 summers. I think I'm going to put it in a pot next spring. It already has, you know, it looks like a small tree. It's a very convincing image. So yeah, it has just kind of yellow, kind of orangey flowers. Can't remember, Mango Tango, I think is the variety. This is a quince from my friends, dug it up from the yard. It just squeaked by last summer, barely surviving, and it's coming out again, so hopefully it's gonna live. Here is another quince, Cameo. Love the flowers on this one, great color. Love that peach orangey color. I've had it for a few years now. The last 2 summers I've just left it in the ground to grow and develop. This is a prunus. I have a lot of plums in my yard. They're delicious and they're amazing because you don't have to spray them for bugs. We get thousands, literally, each fall. So this is a big clump that grew up somewhere I did not want it. And I dug it up and it was kind of an interesting clump, so I thought, well, let's bonsai it. It's been planted here for at least summer, maybe 2 now. And of course I'm just letting the building taper. Again, just let it grow, let it run this year. Next to it is a sorbus or ash. Again, just one I found. Actually, it was growing in this garden box, and I just uprooted it, pruned it, and stuck it back. That's another prunus I just dug up, that little stick beside it. And a quince. And the variety is, oh, it's Japanese. I don't know. It produces white and red and pink flowers, apparently. I hacked it back. Got it for a killer deal, like 40% off last fall. So that's about it. I probably missed some stuff, but that's fine. That's about it. That's what I got going. And it's a nice day. Finally, it's been kind of cold. So that's it.